What's going on, guys? Ronan here, and welcome back to the channel. For you guys, it's only been a week since you've seen me, or a couple of days, but for me, it's been like 2-3 weeks since I have actually touched anything YouTube, so we're getting back into the flow today. But before we get into today's episode, you guys already know the deal. I'm going to need you to take a look at this analytical stat bar right here. Don't forget to turn on notifications, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and drop a comment to help feed the algorithm. But with all that being said, let's get into the next arc of What If Indigo Champion Ash Challenged the Johto League, Season 2, Part 7. I hope you enjoy. We begin today's part with Team Gary as they are trekking their way through the wilds of the Johto region. It's been about a day since they left Equitique City and the surprising revelation that they experienced with Morty and his friend Eugene. While Gary wanted to learn more about the legend and the person that's been hunting this Celebi, the reality of the situation was this. There wasn't anything that they could do, and they couldn't just wait around for this person to show up. So they made the decision that it would be best if they hit the road. If they happen to be in a place and time when they can do something, then they would. But otherwise, Team Gary would just continue on to the site of the next gym in Mahogany Town. However, Gary just can't seem to shake the feeling that there is something dangerous coming, and he knows that they must be alert because whatever it is, it won't be something that they will be able to ignore. But it is here we fade away from Team Gary. But where is not the question we are fading away to, but when, as things from our current understanding become blurred and we find ourselves back in the recent past. Not a couple of years, but a couple of decades. There was a small boy walking through a forest. This boy is known as Sammy, and he ends up meeting a girl named Toa. She is rather young and on the pretty side, Sammy thinks to herself, though he won't have time to indulge this little fantasy of his, as he is a traveling Pokemon trainer looking to learn whatever he can about the Pokemon across the known world. So after being introduced to Toa's grandmother and the guardian of the village, Sammy says his goodbyes, making his way back into a forest. However, this isn't without a warning, as Toa and her grandmother leave Sammy with a very ominous promise. If he can hear the cry of the forest, stay still, otherwise he will be gone forever. However, they were unclear on what it meant, and since they were very vague in their response, it isn't really something that Sammy will be able to heed. So he treks forward with destination unknown, looking for his next great adventure. However, little does the boy know, he won't have to wait long, as a little deeper into the forest, there is something that is happening. Pokemon Hunter, who has sought the power of a very specific Pokemon, is making his way and is hot on the tail of the mythical time traveler Celebi. The grass type is fleeing through the forest as the man with his Houndoom and Scyther are in hot pursuit. They have been tailing the mythical for many days now and are on the verge of becoming the most powerful person in existence and potentially the most wealthiest if the price is right. Celebi is beginning to grow tired as it has been days since the grass type has been able to stop and rest. It gets to the point that the mythical realizes there's only one way it's going to be able to end this, and with a cry of its name, it crosses paths with the boy known as Sammy, as Houndoom and Scyther corner it. Celebi's cry rings throughout the area, drawing Sammy in, who realizes that he cannot let this Pokemon be hurt by these poachers. Realizing he has to do something, Sammy dons what looks like a very early version of the Pokeball as he prepares to send in his ace Pokemon, as Celebi dodges flamethrowers, Fury Cutters from its respective enemies. Unfortunately, the tired mythical is unable to fully evade both attacks and succumbs to the flamethrower, knocking it to the ground. This is where Sammy steps in, preparing to take the role up as guardian of this mythical creature. This is where the hunter appears, telling the boy to step out of the way. Nothing is going to keep him from the prize that he has sought for so long. However, Sammy remains steadfast, refusing to give up any ground to this hunter. Unfortunately, the young and naive boy doesn't know that this hunter is willing to do anything to achieve his goal, and he's about to find out the hard way as he begins to order an assault from the mantis and the dog on the boy. However, before Sammy can respond with defense, Celebi's cry echoes throughout the area as light and winds begin to whip around. In a vortex of energy, both vanish in front of the hunter, only for him to drop to his knees, saying that it's not fair, he was so close to his goals. We now shift perspective as they are carried through what seems to be a vortex of energy that is unstable due to Celebi being so badly hurt. Even though Sammy has no idea where he is, he can still see that Celebi needs help, so he does whatever he can to shuffle towards it. However, before he can make contact with the grass type, a bright light envelops the two, and Sammy finds himself laying on a bed of grass with Celebi nowhere in sight. The boy wobbles to his feet, a bit dazed and confused about the entire situation, wondering if that was just a dream. Looking around, Sammy can see nothing to confirm nor deny this question that he has. So in order to find his bearings, Sammy begins to backtrack his way to the village so that way he can find Toa and get his directions out of this crazy wilderness of the Johto region. However, little does he know that dream that he just had was no mere dream. As if he would have just peered over a log that was only feet away from him, he would have found the mythical Pokemon he was looking for and realized that it's not a matter of where he is, but when. Now we flash back to the day after Gary won his gym badge, and Team Gary was departing from Equatique City. As they exit the town heading east towards the site of the next badge, Mahogany Town, two people that were beckoned by a mysterious voice enter from the south, Jessie and Meowth. The reason they are here is unclear, but they know whoever called them specifically asked for anyone that was left from Team Rocket. However, once they're in the city, the two face a very real problem, the same problem that they were facing back in Goldenrod. They have no money, they have no allies, and most of all, they have no idea where they are supposed to go. The only thing they can do is sit idly by outside of the Pokemon Center, out of the sight of everyone, and wait by the only remaining piece of tech that they have, the radio that beckoned them to Equatique City. Hours go by, and the sun eventually sets until the duo are met with the chill of night. And while the Dobby duo are no strangers to sleeping outside, there is one thing that is missing. They always had the uplifting spirit of James to brighten their nights, even when they didn't have a fire. But now it's just Meowth and Jessie to face the cold of the Equatique nights as ghosts and dark-type Pokemon run ravage in the shadows. In order to take their mind off the depressing state of affairs that they are in, both Jessie and Meowth begin to reminisce about times when things were better. Yeah, they were always chasing the twerp, but at least they had each other. And with James here, things just seemed complete. But now, they just feel empty, Meowth says. Why this would normally solicitate a fiery outburst from Jessie, this time it's just met with a very depressing yeah. She's even lost her lust for life at this point. The only thing that is keeping her and Meowth going is the promise that there might be something on the other end of this emptiness, especially since how all of their hopes hang on this mysterious voice that they know who not or where it came from. It eventually gets to the point to where it's so cold outside that Jessie makes a suggestion that she head inside under the guise of Meowth's trainer, and maybe they can get some much needed food and warmth, and possibly get a warm bed as well. However, that would require the feline to keep its mouth shut for the time being. While Meowth really doesn't like the suggestion, he really can't argue the logic behind it. They have nothing, and things are only getting worse. If they don't do something soon, then they could very well freeze to death out here. However, just as they agree to this plan of Jessie's, the voice that told them to come to Equatique then comes over the intercom once more, asking if there are any Rocket members in the vicinity of Equatique. Has anybody managed to get out of Goldenrod? With desperation in her voice, Jessie clutches at the walkie-talkie, declaring, yes, we're here. There's only two of us, but we are here. A moment of brief silence befalls the intercom, only for Jessie and Meowth to think that they may have lost connection. However, this is then followed by a request of their presence. Jessie explains that they are outside of the Pokemon Center. They have been for several hours and are awaiting further commands. The mysterious voice tells them to head east of the Pokemon Center, just outside of town. There, they'll find a small shack, then to wait for further instructions. Reluctantly, both Meowth and Jessie follow through with this, as they don't really have much other choice. Moving slow because of the cold causes them to take a little bit longer, about an hour to get to the shack. However, once they get there, they find that it's just an old, rundown building, nothing of importance, and it looks like it hasn't been occupied in a long time. Jessie begins to burst in outrage, thinking that this may be some sort of prank, and she's getting really tired of this wild goose chase in the dark. However, a voice behind her tells her that he's sorry for all the secrecy. He just had to make sure they were who they claimed, and they weren't being followed. Now we find ourselves back in Arborville with a young lady named Diane and her grandmother, Toa. Team Gary were invited in for a brief meal due to their travels being halted by the voice of the forest. This is where Team Gary learns about the legend of Celebi and how if its cries echo through the forest, then that means it could be getting ready to time travel. So if Team Gary hears that, it's best that they stay in one place, lest they be sucked into the time stream. Ethan and Marina kind of brush this off as it's just a story, but Gary is taken a little bit more seriously. They haven't really experienced Pokemon like he has, and not every one of their abilities are known. And this is seconded by Toa as she explains a story about how a boy 50 years in the past disappeared without a trace, and it was right after the voice of the forest was heard. While Team Gary decides to heed this warning, they also decide that it's best for them to move on, as they do have a lot of ground to cover before they get to Mahogany Town. So after the meal, they thank Toa and her granddaughter Diana for their hospitality and decide to depart from Arborville. As Team Gary begins their trek out of the town, they are waved off by Toa and her granddaughter Diane from their treetop house, only for something to catch Toa's eyes. As Team Gary walks out of the town, someone she thought she would never see again comes back into town. "Sammy," she yells, as Toa descends from the tree faster than anything her granddaughter has ever seen. The old woman rushes to the boy, asking if he's alright, where has he been? However, Sammy is confused. He asks if Toa is anywhere around, and then he eyes the young lady up in the tree, screaming, "Toa, hey, can you come down? I really need to talk to you." However, the old lady has some bad news for Sammy. She is Toa, and Sammy has been gone for over 50 years. While this exchange has happened, Team Gary had watched the entire thing, and to say that their interest has been piqued would be an understatement, as Gary, Ethan, and Marina decide that it might be best to spend the night so they can learn more about this boy that has been missing for over 50 years. The rest of the night is explaining everything that had happened from Sammy's point of view and how he had encountered a poacher and Celebi, and he did his best to try and defend Celebi from the poacher. However, it began to cry in an ear-piercing squeal, and then before he knew it, it was nothing but lights, and then they were in the same place that they had just been before the lights had appeared. However, the poacher was nowhere around, and neither was Celebi, so Sammy thought it was a dream. That's why he decided to come back to Arborville. That way he can figure out his bearings and get a new sense of direction, as the forest was kind of creeping him out. After all the stories are told and the night settles down, Sammy gets a chance to finally meet Team Gary, as in Gary, Ethan, and Marina. They're all kids about his age. Well, Gary is a little bit older than Sammy is now, but it doesn't really matter, as they all seem to hit it off really well. This is where Gary asks where Sammy was going, to which the time-displaced boy responds that he was going to meet a very strong trainer in a village that isn't too far from here, about a 2 days walk, somewhere called Mahogany Town. What a coincidence, Gary says. That's actually where me and Ethan were heading. We're on our way there now to challenge the gym to a gym battle and hopefully earn our 7th badges of the Johto region. This is where Sammy asks a question that is all too obvious to our current day heroes, and that is, what is a Pokemon gym and what's a gym battle? Ethan and Marina laugh, as in their time, this is a common thing. Every kid knows what a Pokemon gym is and what a Pokemon gym battle and the Pokemon League is. However, Gary quickly shuts this down when he tells Ethan that Ash, when he first started out on his journey, didn't really know what the Pokemon League challenge was. So not everybody could know, but they gotta remember one important thing. Sammy is from 50 years in the past. A lot has changed in that time, especially here in the Johto region, considering it's more of a rural setting, if you will. This instantly quiets the two, as Gary goes on to explain to Sammy about the gym challenge, showing him his Pokedex and how his grandpa was very big in its creation. And the rest of the night fades on, with the boys growing closer and closer together. By morning, it's been decided that they can't stay in Arborville for much longer, so Sammy has decided to join Team Gary and hit the road, considering they've established that they were all headed in the same direction. While Sammy doesn't really know that trainer that he was supposed to meet in Mahogany Town is still alive, he figured it'd be worth a shot. Maybe the thing that he was there to inquire about is still there. He won't know unless he tries. So, after saying goodbye to Toa and Diana, Team Gary, with +1, decides to head out, setting off into the forest. Now we follow up with Jesse and Meowth as they are trekking through the wilds of the Johto region. In front of them stands somebody that they never thought they would actually get a chance to meet. The man known as the Iron Masked Marauder. While neither of them know him personally, he is a legend among the ranks of Team Rocket, being one of the highest ranked admirals in all of the organization. However, there is one thing that is yet to be addressed. Exactly why he had called for any of the remaining rocket contingents from Goldenrod City. This is where we pick up on a conversation with Jesse and Mouth, as the two are arguing about who is going to ask the Marauder the big question. Why are they following him, and where are they going? Eventually, their low whispers grow into a murmur, to which the Marauder can overhear every word, and he's getting tired of their incessant babbling, so he decides to answer the question for himself. Telling the two, they're following up on a lead that he had gotten recently about the sighting of a very rare Pokemon, something that has the power to tip the scales in Team Rocket's favor, or more notably, the Marauder's favor, considering he had heard that Giovanni has been MIA since the incident in Goldenrod. This is where Meowth decides to ask the question of if he knows of anyone named James, a purple-haired man who worked for Team Rocket. He was one of the admins closest to Giovanni, and one of their closest allies in the Team Rocket organization. However, they haven't seen him since before the raid. While the Marauder admits that there are some that he has heard back from, he doesn't recall anybody by the name of James. He must have been captured by the police in Goldenrod. This is where Jessie begins to ask a question. However, she is told to be silent. As they finally reach the site of their destination, a rundown old property with cars that haven't worked in decades scattered everywhere, and outside, Pokemon stacked on top of each other in cages, being held in a cruel way. This is something that Jessie and Meowth are quite uncomfortable with. However, the Marauder pays no mind to this, as he releases a Pokemon, a Sneasel, from a ball that cuts open the door to the shack, revealing a very disheveled and old-looking man who's surprised by the arrival of the Marauder. The man tries to retaliate to the intruder in his home. However, Sneasel is quickly to shut this down with a slash to the man's hand, forcing him to drop the Pokeball that he is getting ready to use. Who are you, the man demands to know, and why are you in my domain? However, the Marauder simply chuckles at this false bravado that the man puts up. The masked Rocket finds this amusing. However, he doesn't have time for games, and he quickly gets down to business, telling the old man that he had heard a rumor that once in the forest around these parts, he nearly caught the mythical Pokemon, Celebi. And the Marauder's request is simple. He wants the old man to take him to the spot that he found the Celebi. However, the old man quickly responds, telling the Marauder that he is still a Pokemon hunter, and he wouldn't dare share anything with this 2-bit criminal. The hard way, he says. Well, I could appreciate that. Sneasel, let's show him what the hard way gets him, the Marauder responds. As the old man goes through the process of some light convincing from Sneasel and the Marauder, Jessie begins to ask Meowth what this Celebi is that the Marauder speaks of. Meowth tells Jessie that he's not really sure, though the name sounds familiar, and if he recalls correctly, it has something to do with time, maybe time travel. However, the conversation is quickly interrupted when the old man is thrown out of his door, right in front of the cages of his Pokemon. However, the stubbornness of this old man cannot be discounted, as he still refuses to talk. But the Marauder has one thing left up his sleeve, as he orders Sneasel to slash the bars on one of the cages housing a very timid Tyranitar. Then, from his vest, the Marauder rips what looks like a Pokeball. However, it is black as night, and the old man asks what it is. The Marauder simply smirks, saying that this is a Dark Ball, one of the strongest inventions from Team Rocket. Then, he throws it at the Tyranitar, telling the old man that it instantly captures whatever it hits, then elevates their level to their maximum potential. As the ball captures the Tyranitar and returns the Marauder, the man chuckles to himself and says, "Oh yeah," and it has one more side effect. It makes whatever it catches hyper aggressive, as he releases Tyranitar, ordering it to set the place ablaze with a hyper beam. The old man pleads with the Marauder not to do this. However, he just simply smiles, watching Tyranitar begin to fire hyper beam after hyper beam in the surrounding area, hitting the cages that the Pokemon sit in, scaring them for their lives, until the old man finally breaks. "Fine, I'll tell you what you want, just please stop." The Marauder simply cackling to himself as he says, "Good." And that, my friends, is where we are going to leave things for now. So tell me, how did you feel about this part? What do you think about Sammy and him being transported to the future? And of course, his interaction with Team Gary and the fact that they had to move on from Arborville before he could get any resolution to his story. And how about the Marauder calling all of the contingents of Team Rocket that weren't captured from Goldenrod up to his ranks? And of course, what's going to happen with the inevitable paths that are eventually going to cross between Team Gary and the new Team Rocket? Let me know in the comments down below. that's all we had for today's video. I really appreciate you guys stopping by to watch all the way to the end, and I just wanted to say thank you for that. If you guys really enjoy my content, consider following me on some of my other platforms like Discord, where you can get to know other people who are interested in what ifs, or on Twitter, where I post sometimes behind the scenes updates. Or if you want to help the channel grow a little bit extra, why don't you consider donating like the people right here have, as whatever you could offer could help us get to a larger audience by helping us get new videos done, or some of the projects that we more custom art is getting kind of expensive, so we want to make sure that we have the funds to do that. But with all that being said, I really hope you guys enjoyed everything, and I will see you in the next video.